Hello and welcome to the forest atmosphere. Basically, we'll be learning how to add variety of trees, and this is what we will try to achieve. Just to give a nice touch to end the video, yeah. Okay, so let's go and then start the process. And while I'm starting the process, you can start to hit the like and subscribe button. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Okay, this is a new scene. I'll go to my top view and then I will select this. This is selected already. Let's delete this cube and I will create a plane, mesh plane, and then I will press N on my keyboard and let's adjust the width, maybe somewhere around 1500. And then this can be, and we can further adjust this later on. Okay, so the first thing I would like to apply is the texture for this ground plane, and the texture that I am using is from this Polyheaven website. This is the one I'm using. I have downloaded it already and it's right here. I've taken the diffuse displacement and the normal map. Okay, and let me expand this and bring up my shading material. Okay, so what I will be using is the Node Wrangler, which comes with Blender, so you should be using it. And if you don't have it enabled, so you can go to preferences, go to add-ons and type node is enough, and this is where you will get it, and just click the check mark and it should be working. And the way I will use this is select this. Okay, this should be selected and I will press, I believe, Control Shift T, and then I will browse to the location. Okay, I'll select all of my textures. All right, and let's click Principal Texture Setup. So let me just expand this. So as you can see, all of my setup is done automatically. It added 3 different texture nodes and connected it with the displacement to the displacement output, and it has also given me the mapping control. Okay, so it should be updated here. Let's check the material preview. Okay, so we need to adjust the parameter. Okay, so let's come over here and let's check the scale. We can click and drag and actually give a value 2, so it will adjust it all the values at the same time. Okay, so the texture is complete. Now let me check the displacement. All right, first let me see the displacement. So let's go to the modifier properties. The displacement is on and I don't see it. So let me give some subdivision modifier, subdivision surface, and if we increase, nothing happens. No problem. Okay, keep the render value high, no problem. I can keep this here. I don't want this thing turning into a circle, so let's select the simple option. Okay, and while this plane is selected, let's go to the materials tab and scroll down I don't like this. We have to enable this displacement. If we have given the displacement in the materials, the properties for displacement, it should work without selecting an additional option. If I turn on the rendering, viewport rendering, okay, as you can see the detail, but we don't see the displacement. Okay, so let's come into our materials tab. We need to change the renderer from EV to cycles. Okay, something has been updated. Fine, so let's come back down here and see if we have the displacement option. Oh, displacement, yes. Can I expand this? Sorry, let's expand this out a little bit. Huh? The whole thing, yeah. It's getting cluttered a little bit. Okay, so we come down here, we have the displacement option. So this displacement option was not available when we had EV selected. Okay, so let's say if I select EV back and go back to the materials, I don't see the displacement. It's strange, huh? So EV don't support it yet, maybe. Okay, so cycles, come to the materials tab, and then here's the displacement. So the settings that I am looking for, displacement, it says bump only. I don't understand why. It should say displacement, should be displacement. I don't know, there must be some reason. Let's say displacement and bump. Okay, something just happened. All right, so now all we need is we need to add more information to our plane. So if I give it more subdivision, you can see the displacement. Okay, fine. So we don't want to use the high values in the viewport, but we can increase it for our render. But in order to adjust the camera, I don't mind increasing it. Okay, it looks messy. Okay, let's try another option. It's looking a bit messy. So let's go back to the renderer option and select the experimental. Once we do the experimental, we have this adaptive subdivision. So it will do more subdivision. And now as you can see, the result is much better. Wow. Okay, the result is looking more realistic compared to that choppy, blocky stuff. Okay, so let's turn on this adaptive subdivision and let's adjust the camera somewhere here. We can adjust it later as well. Okay, so coming back to our material, I don't want this a lot of shine in there. Okay, fine. So now we can move to the next stage, and that is to bring, okay, let me go forward, and we will adjust the camera later when we bring in our trees and set it up more. Okay, so let's go and bring in, so I will change this back to the material preview. Okay, and now we can go and start to bring in our tree. Okay, so we will change this from the shader editor to the asset browser. Okay, I can turn this off. Let's select, instead of current file, generators, and I have created a video already how to set up this generators for the asset browser. All right, so the link will be in the description somewhere. I'll click and drag and drop. Okay, this is not good. I will go to my front view and bring this down, select and press G, bring this down to the Z axis somewhere here, and let's open up the geometry node editor so we can see. Then I'll expand this. Okay. All right, so this looks very intimidating. There's a lot of stuff is happening, and how we can adjust the properties of the tree. So if I select this and duplicate, for example, Shift D, and I will stick to the y-axis. Okay, and then if I want to adjust any value, let's say this is one set of branch, lower branch, and this is upper level branch, the tiny branches that you see, and then we have leaves, how many leaves you want. If I reduce the amount, you can see it's reducing it, and it's actually changing for both of them. So in some cases we don't want this, and in some cases maybe we want it to have the, so it's acting like as an instance. All right, so how we can make this unique, I will show you in a moment. All right, so the way we can make it unique is this group input here. This is where we need to connect any value we want to make it unique. So it will help us in two ways. Number one, of course, it will, so let me just do it first. So this is the connector here point. You can select this, click and drag, and take it all the way and connect it here. Once we do it, it will be unique and it will appear here in the modify panel. You can see amount. If I adjust from here, so it is only doing it for the selected tree, and we can no longer edit the value from here. As you can see, we don't have the option to change the amount. We can do only from here. Now the good thing is any attribute that I want to bring here in this panel will become easy to access, and at the same time will be unique, and that will be happening for all the trees. So for example, if I add different attributes over here, let's say the branch, this is the starting point, okay, where the branch are starting. So let me adjust, you'll see what this value is doing. Okay, but this is happening for both, so I want to make this unique. So I'll select this and connect this to my group input, so it appears here. So when I change it, it is unique for the tree. Okay, so this is really good. So anytime if we duplicate a tree and then we want to make a certain value unique, we can do it. All right, now the question is, you can see these values, these namings are same. Noise scale, middle height, end height, and the amount. So how we can adjust it? So for example, if I take this and bring it over here, so we have two amount. We don't know what this amount do unless we change the value. Okay, so this is the amount of branches, I think, for the upper level. And let me bring one more, this one. So we have three amounts now, and this is the amount of height. Just a minute. Okay, so this is the height, how close it is, squeezed All right, so we now know this is the distance. So how we can change the name of these? That's the good question. So let's select this node. All right, and we can press N on our keyboard. So in order to get to the naming, window, we can click on the group, and it will show all of the listed attributes. So we can double click and change. So if this is the one that is adjusting the distance, so we can just give a name, double click, anything that you can remember for yourself. All right, and this amount is the amount of branches. Okay, upper level branches. Okay, branch. And then this start, what is this start doing? This is the starting point, that is fine. And this is the amount of leaves. So we can rename it to maybe leaf. Okay, leaf count. All right, so this is just so you get the idea. So I will bring this back down, and let's reduce the amount of leaf, and let's reduce the amount of branches. Okay, so keep it low, anyways, like that. Okay. So I would like to modify this. I'll come to the branch node here, and let's connect this end height. So I want this to be unique, and the middle height. All right, so the end height, for example, if I take this all the way up and I adjust this, maybe bring this down. Okay, so this is how we can have variety in the trees. So what I will do now, I will do the process of populating the tree. Okay, it might get a little bit slower, so I can just duplicate Shift D in the y-axis and maybe rotate it in around the Z, scale it down just a little bit, or maybe scale, you get the idea. Okay, and then we can just have few amounts of branches, increase something like this, and adjust the starting point something, right? And we can reduce the amount of leaves. So I will continue the process, and I will come back when I've done populating the trees. Okay, so this is what I just finished populating the trees, and I've added a small broken tree just to so basically just to finish up in a good way. So we learned how to add properties to the trees, and then to make it unique we can bring it over here, and it is also easier to access, and we can also rename these attributes to our understanding. Okay, so now what I will be doing is, let's check in the material view. Okay, they're all looking dead trees without leaves. So if I select one of these and maybe add some leaves just to give a variety, okay, we will see it in the render when we render it. Okay, so if I click on the render, okay, we don't have any light, no problem. I'll just add a sunlight. If I go to my front view, and let's create a light, bring this down. Let's go to Shift A, light, sunlight. Okay, where is this sunlight? Okay, let me position it. Maybe from here, and then rotate the direction. And let me check in the top view. That's fine. How about if I rotate it in this direction as well? Okay. And let's go to our camera view. Okay. And let's try to adjust some of the settings, but let's see first what we are getting. Oh, looks scary, isn't it? Okay. We add a little bit. Let's try some strength here. I will need to add some background sky. Yeah. Then it will make a lot more sense. Okay, so for this distance, for this tree at the distance here, maybe I can bring this down just a little bit so we don't see it as floating. Okay, so you get the idea, getting some nice shadowing from these trees and branches. Okay, because I have reduced the, let me reduce this to maybe 60%, so it's a little bit faster. Okay, so now what I need to do is, if I go over here to the world properties, and for the sky color, at the moment it's just this. If I click on this and add the sky texture, okay, and then let me try again. It looks like the sun is right in front of us, but in our in our scene we place the sun direction somewhere from coming over here. So let's try to rotate the sun. So this is sun rotation. So let's rotate it, maybe 30. Okay, maybe 60. Maybe 85. Okay. If I add the value to the ozone. Okay, so we have our sky, and I don't know if I reduce the intensity to maybe 0.3. Okay. How about 0? I want to know if that light I added to my scene, if it's doing anything. So let me select it from the collection area and see by reducing the intensity. Okay, so it is affecting. So let me increase it. Just keep on increasing. Okay, that's really harsh. So let's reduce it. Maybe if I reduce it and just play with the sun intensity from the sky. Yeah, this is much better, I guess. Maybe 0.6. Okay, 0.7. Okay, if we give a little bit value to our air, so that is giving us a little bit warmer. So maybe 1.2. Okay. Yeah, something like this. Just to finish up our scene. This is just to show how the sky texture work. If I make this 10, you can see how it changes the mood. If we make it 1, we can play around with this, maybe in between somewhere. 5 is better, I guess. All right, so this is more than enough. and then I can do a high-res render just to finish it up. Okay. I'll make this 100%. And let me check the noise setting. I think it's too much. Maybe I just want to make it go faster. Okay. I can even give a time limit if I want. Okay. Not more than... Let me see how it goes first. I'll show you the end result. All right. Okay, so this is the render output, and I will load this image in Krita, the photo editing program. Okay, it is loaded here, and there is one more image that I want to bring in from my render passes. Select from combine to change this to environment. So this is the one. I will save this image as, and then bring this in the photo editing program. So let me bring that in. Okay, so I've saved it already. This is the one, environment PNG. Insert as a new layer. Okay. So what I need is this part. I want to bring a different background to it. Okay. So the way I will do it, first turn this image into black and white. I'll go to filter, adjustment, and desaturate. It's fine. And then on top of this, I will add the color adjustment curves to make the contrast more obvious. Make white more white and black more black. Okay. Now what I need is, I need to invert this because I need to delete the trees and I want to keep this white part. So let me show you. Let me invert this. So whatever is white will be taken off, will be removed from the image. So the way we do it, go to filter, colors, color to alpha, and then click OK. So we have to click and select and pick the color. So it has already done, it's white. So white is gone. So if I control click, the background is selected, highlighted. Okay. Now what I need to do is first bring in the background image. Okay. So this is the one. Click and drag. Insert as a new layer. Okay, so I will be using this just to give a slight faded background. Okay, so first let me expand this. And then let me bring this down. Now it's time to get the selection. Control click. And with the trees layer selected, I will click this and select add transparency mask. Okay, so let me hide this. So if I move this background image, it doesn't work. So undo it. The way this should work is click this arrow. Okay. And then this one where it says transparency, we need to lock this layer. Once we lock it and then select this, we can move it and adjust the position of it. Okay. So now if I scale it, something like this, Bring it down just a little bit, maybe scale it up. And now if I reduce the opacity, maybe 60% or something. Okay, I get the idea. Actually, I need to expand this just a little bit. Yeah. Now I need to adjust this render layer. So let me duplicate this just to be safe. And I will apply the unsharp mask. Where is it? Enhance unsharp mask. Maybe 3 and maybe 1. Okay. And let me add the curves. Filter, adjust, color adjustment. Let's take this and take this up slightly, so you get the idea. Just to add a little contrast. And so this is how it is completed, and that background is adding to the mood, a mystic mood in the background. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Thank you and bye bye. Hello and welcome to another episode of Blender. This time I will be utilizing the new asset browser for Blender 3.0, and I will also be using the free add-on generators to help speed up our work. So let's get into it. I will be building the beam, the wooden beam, and then we can get into the fun part. I go to my top view, create a cube, and I will press N on my keyboard, and I have the value with me, 70 centimeter. It's the width, and Y and Z will be 10.5. This is the beam, and I can see my scale value is off, so I can press Ctrl A, rotation and scale. My scale value is 1. So now I want to give a little bit thickness to the edges, and I can go into the edit mode, select all, press Ctrl B, and then I can just add some detail and one more edge loop to it. Okay, fine. So this is good enough, and now we can get into the fun part. I will bring up my asset browser so I can use this timeline window. I'll click and drag and press Shift F1 and Shift F1 again. So this is my asset browser. Current file. So in this current file I don't have any assets, so I will select, this is the user library. I have generators selected, generators I've created, and when I select, I have these assets to select and play with. So what I need is a rope. Okay, so I will click and drag and drop it. Where is it? This is my rope. I can just bring this down, and then all I can do is bring the rope down and probably go to my side view and scale it down, and I can rotate it in the Z axis 90 degrees. So I'll enter 90 on my keyboard. Okay. I don't need these first, so I can go to my settings and I can actually make it 0. Okay, so editing and modifying this rope is very easy. So hit the tab button to edit, and these are our points to play with. Press G and we can move around, and it will expand accordingly. So go to my right view, going back to the object mode, and let me just place it properly here or here. Okay, now what I will do is going back to the edit mode. I'll select this point and I can press E to scale, sorry, E to extrude, and then just come down and press R to rotate. Scale down the Bezier line, and as you can see, press G to move. It is already getting better, so I can select, press G to move, and somewhere like this, press scale to tighten up and then move it out just a little bit. You can already see we are getting there. Fine. So now I will extrude again and then extrude again, and I can hit R to rotate to fix. Bring this here in the center, and then this we can fix. Bring this up, scale it just to tighten up the corner, and then this one we can rotate and it will be fine. Press G to move and then select, E to extrude again, E to extrude again, and then you can rotate it. Then just bring this back, and you get the idea. So now what I want is I need to offset this slightly. So what I will be doing is going back to my wireframe mode, select all of these, and then just push it in slightly. That's good. Maybe select this one and then press R, move it just a little bit. So it should be fine. Now I can select this, E to extrude again, and going back to my side view, extrude again. You get the idea. Extrude it down, rotate the Bezier curve, Bezier handle, sorry, bring it in just a little bit, and we can just tighten this up. It doesn't have to be perfect, that's the point. Extrude it further down, and then extrude it further down just to have a little bit of variation. Can bring this in just a little bit. What I will do now, bring the end part. Okay, I have already created the end part and I've added it to my asset library, but I will show you just a little bit how I did it. I would like to bring this 3D cursor here. Okay, I'll select this point and press Shift S, and then I'll say cursor to select it. Shift A, and I'll create a curve point. This is the point right here. Bring up this settings, select 3D and then poly. So now what I can do is bring this out just a little bit and then extrude, 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 something like this. So this is my line where I can give a little bit of a thickness. I'm just showing you this 3.05. Okay, so what I would like to do is bring the pivot point of this, or yeah, so select, right click, set origin to 3D cursor, duplicate it, and then press Shift D to duplicate, and then press R to rotate, and then press Z. I can restrict and rotate around the Z axis. So let's say maybe just a little bit here, Okay, if I am happy with this, I can press Shift R. So I can quickly create, okay, something like this. What I can do is select all of these and then make them one object. Okay, I'll select all of these, press Ctrl J, and then duplicate, and then scale it down just a little bit and rotate in Z-axis, around the Z-axis, just to give it a little bit of variation. Okay, and you can play with the variation here. So I will delete it because I have already created it. I will do is bring up my asset browser. There it is, the rope end. Okay, I'll just drop it in the scene, and then it's way big. Scale it slightly more, and I will selection to the cursor. Okay, so I was just snapping it to the location. So now you get the idea where this is heading. Okay, cool. So now I need this part to come down even further. So let's do it. Edit, tab mode, way bigger handle, scale to bring it down, going to the side view, bring this back here, and then extrude again, down, rotate, bring it here somewhere, and then I can rotate, extrude, so not making it straight, you understand, has to have a little bit of a variation, uneven. Okay, and same thing I can bring, duplicate, and even this one I would like to give it a slightly different, let's scale it in Z only, just to have a little bit of a variation. And actually I should align it in the front view. Okay, and we'll go to the materials and then click this ball arrow, select rope, and then we have the same finish. Okay, same thing with this one, select rope. Okay, so now we are ready to add the bulb. So we'll go to the side view, let's create a mesh, and we can create a UV sphere. So now I can bring it here, scale it down. So for the bulb, this is going to be our starting point. Edit mode. So I'll select all of these points and then delete. Okay. Now I can extrude it down and extrude up just a little bit. So this is going to be our lovely bulb that we always wanted. Okay, fine. We will be applying our subdivision surface to it. So this is the bulb, and the bulb will be having a holder. Select the faces, okay, and press Shift D to duplicate, and press P to separate the selection. So now, okay, I can right click and say origin the pivot point to the geometry, and then scale it out a little bit. Okay, select both, scale down just a little bit, and give subdivision to our bulb. Okay, so the bulb is fine. So now what I need to do is maybe scale this out just a bit, or actually I can duplicate and scale it out and rotate it. So there is a little bit variation, so we can hide it, can duplicate it somewhere here, and then from the front view align it and duplicate this, scale it and rotate it around the Z axis, select and then scale it just a little bit here. What we can do is reduce the height of this so it looks like it's all hidden. Yeah, so this is complete. Now what we can do is select this whole part, deselect this, and we can start to move it around, duplicate, move it around, duplicate somewhere here, and this time I would like to mirror it in the Y direction, something like this. So the shortcut was Control M, and then I selected M for mirror, and I selected Y axis. The green is Y. You can see the green is Y. Okay. So just to give a little bit of a variation, I can go in and give it slightly different variation to the length. Z, move it up, you know, slightly giving it a different variation. Adjust the length. All of these I can move slightly. So I added a little bit of a variation where this is slightly different length and slightly different angle. Okay, something like this. Now the remaining part is how to hang this beam from the ceiling. Okay, so we need some chain. So it's time to bring in the chain. So let's do it. Okay, let's call in our asset manager, the asset browser. So click and drag, and you guessed it right, this is the chain that I need. Click and drag and drop it. Close the asset browser. Where is the chain? Here is the chain, the lovely chain. The chain is the same concept as the rope. We can modify it. The chain is quite big. I will scale it down, scale it. Is this enough? Is this good enough? So let's rotate it, bring it here, go to front view. Let's bring in the chain from the center. Okay, something like this. Let me bring in something, the central piece. It could be a simple, let me make a simple circle, scale it down, right? So edit mode, select all and press F to close, and then E to extrude in the Z axis. Okay, we can add detail to this, but that's fine. So let's say I would like to align my chain. So if I want to bring the pivot point here, the fastest way we can do it is the pivot point works with the 3D circle cursor. Okay, so if I have this point selected, and this is where I want my pivot point, the origin. So if with this selected, press Shift S, cursor to select it. So this is my cursor, and then you come out and in the object mode, right click, set origin, origin to 3D cursor. Fine. Now I can hit rotate and I can easily align it the way I want. Go into the edit mode, select this point. Either I can drag to extend, yeah, or I can extrude. It's all up to me. It's good. Then we need to align this. So let's make the Y value 0. Okay. Duplicate and press G to move. And then the final part is press Ctrl M, and the red is the x-axis, press X. Okay, and then we can just align it visually how we want. This is not good, so let's bring this down just a little bit, and then bring this down just a little bit. Okay. Okay, so this is the pendant with the row. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe button. See you next time. Thank you and bye bye. Hello everyone and welcome. This is speed modeling time lapse, modeling a bus using the basic reference image, but I will be using two different reference images, and just to illustrate the purpose of basic simple modeling of this bus. Okay, so I have imported it and trying to adjust the reference image and basically bringing this forward, and now it's time to add the reference dimension for the height of the bus. That is 3.5 meters. Fine. Okay, so now basically I can take the reference image and scale it to match the dimension reference box. Okay, just to basically getting the idea for the height. So this should be good enough. All right. Okay, so what I can do from the filter, I can enable the selectable and make it not selectable so that there is no accidental moving the reference image. All right, so now we can begin the process of creating modeling the bus with a simple cube. Okay, and just placing it. Basically following along the basic shape of the bus. Okay, and not going into much detail at this moment. Okay, making this straight using the scale. And then extrude it, bring this point up, and then we can add one more loop cut in the center and just adjusting following the basic shape. Okay, and continuing the extrude, repeat the same process for the front. And then I adjusting the shape, matching it roughly. Now for the front, we can just bring this back, maybe even further back, and then we can adjust the aligning with the window. Okay, that should be good. Okay, so we're getting some shape over here, and now it's time to match the width of the bus. Yeah, just basically getting the help from the reference image. Okay, so this is the basic shape that has been created. All right, using the Alt C, we can make it see-through. Okay, just adding one more loop cut, just making room for the window opening. So adding more loop cuts to apply the subdivision modifier, just so that we can hold the shape better. Okay, so we need to further adjust, just making it visible the original cage while editing it, and adding more loop cut. All right, one more over here and one more over here. Still need to tighten up the shape. Okay, basically enabling the settings so that we can also see the final shape while we are editing the vertices. Okay, this should be good enough to proceed further. And now adding a little bit of a bevel so that it's not sharp, and adding more loop cuts so that we can apply the hold the shape better when we enable our subdivision. And let's bring this out. Okay, for the shape of the front of the bus, and let's make it straight using the scale feature, using the S and the axis and entering the 0 value. All right, just adding more loop cuts to keep the shape as it is desired. Okay, the other side we don't need to worry, we will mirror it later on. Okay, and then selecting all the vertices just to give it guide the shape to be a little bit smoother on the edges. All right, and now we can just push this in so that we can eliminate the box shape of the bus. Right, yeah, that's okay. Yeah, now I think we can have a cut in the center so that we can remove the other side. Yep, and now we can pivot point to the center. Okay, so this is the pivot point that should be. So what we need to do is edit the pivot point and then just snap it to the vertex. Okay, this is good now. And we can add mirror modifier. Now this is perfectly fine. Okay, so we only worry about one side. Okay, now we are creating the mesh for the window so that we can apply Boolean. All right, so we are doing vertex beveling. All right, and then just copy following the reference image as a guide. Okay, this one we need further adjustment. Okay, and then the last one, or the front driver's window, whatever you want to call. This is all good. Let's bring it out, and we are ready to merge and make it all one object by using the hotkey Control J. Simple, and we made a duplicate so that just in case anything goes wrong, we can bring back the original copy. Okay, now let's position it so that we can boolean it. Okay, so we'll apply the Boolean modifier, and we will use the fast solver. Okay, so let's change this using the shear we can align the shape of the mesh to the shape of the bus, and then we have a better result of Boolean. Okay, so this is good. Let's do the front. Okay, and using the help of the reference, we can just modify the shape. Okay, and we can apply the vertex beveling. Right, good. I'll position it, and again using the shear, we can align the shape so that we can have a better result for Boolean. Okay, let's duplicate and apply for the back side as well. Okay, adjusting the shape, Boolean modifier. Okay, that's good. One more Boolean modifier for the back side. Any solver will do. Okay, it's good. Now we need to collapse this. Okay, but first we can apply the mirror modifier so that we get the Boolean, so we get the effect on the other side as well. So let's select all of these. Okay, and then press Ctrl plus so that we can select the edges as well. Okay, and then we can just delete. Okay, now we can add thickness to it. Well, first we need to collapse. All right, and now we have added the solidify, and then we are almost getting there. Of a thickness. Okay, and then you can just duplicate, or we can mirror it, bring the pivot point to the center of the bus. Okay, so it's better to work with the center of the origin. So let's bring everything. Okay, now if I collapse all transform, I get the pivot at the center. I can easily use the mirror modifier. Okay, let's push this back a bit further. We have the front headlights done. And now let's work on the backlights. Cube, and then we'll just create a basic shape for the backlight. You can again use the same vertex bevel. So we have an equal amount of beveling all sides. Okay, so this is fine. You can just position it. Yeah, this is good. Just bring it back, and then you can adjust the thickness of it. Yeah, it's good. Now we can work on modeling the tire. We use the circle shape, right? It's good. You can just position it using multiple views. All right, extrude it and bevel. Now we can just select single face over here. I think then we can use the bevel.